I'm inside David Balfour Park. This is the site of a sacred vigil to honor youth suicide victims in Canada. Now, 2 men have been camped out inside this city park for more than 1 month to bring attention to this rising issue. Now, while they are receiving community support, Toronto's municipal codes don't allow for overnight camping and unpermitted fires in parks. So how do sacred fires get accommodated when they conflict with city bylaws?
These sacred fires are very important for our culture and our way of life. And we do need a place like that, especially in the city of Toronto, where there is a huge number of Indigenous people who would, I'm sure, like to go out and take part in these events. We've faced numerous challenges from everywhere from the community that lives in this riding to government officials that are just unclear as to how to go about this issue. There's been nothing like this really done before for this extended period of time.
Jeffrey Daybuch is a firekeeper at the temporary campsite where the sacred fire has been burning day and night for the last 32 days. City officials have been trying to relocate the 2 men to another park site, but just on Wednesday, they say Toronto police served them with an eviction notice, but that has since been cancelled. A Ryerson University law professor says it's becoming more obvious that cities need to recognize the community uses areas like this one in many different ways.
You have a lot of recognition by the cities that they have a role to play in creating a good place for Indigenous practices. The Canadians are going through a learning process where they're recognizing that what it could be framed as preferential, Indigenous people would see as something that they negotiated for in treaties or that they carry with them as inherent rights. And that's an education in how we come to agreement on that.
The City of Toronto is taking that step by creating a policy framework to speak to these needs of Toronto's Indigenous communities. This will be a first of its kind for the city, and the report is expected to be coming back to a committee by November and will include consulting members of the community, including the 2 men at the David Balfour campsite.
And what they're going to do is lay out a framework of consultation and probably some suggestions of how they can actually engage the Indigenous community around Indigenous placemaking so that there's a better policy to guide us, number one, because right now it doesn't exist. Number two, it also gives us greater understanding and it will be a document that we can all point to and rely upon when these conflicts do emerge.
Now, as for this sacred fire, City of Toronto officials are assisting the 2 men in finding a permanent park location. One of the locations being tossed around is Trillium Park in Ontario Place. It already has some of this infrastructure in place, including a fire pit and public washrooms, but it is a provincial park, so the city must first consult with Ontario's government, and no timeline has been provided for this move.